Well, happy Friday afternoon as we are live and ready to go for GBO Podcast episode 34. And we have a treat for you this evening as we have Ramsey Rodriguez, our Synergen 3 owner and founder. And this man has an incredible company, more importantly, an incredible background. And when I learned of this individual, I got a chance to meet him live this year and was so impressed not only with his accomplishment in business, but also his dedication and discipline in the bodybuilding and fitness industry. So our listeners have a multitude of different hobbies and interests, and one of them fits right in your alley. That is competitive bodybuilding, Ramsey, and the other one is general health and fitness. And you've created just an amazing line, which we'll get to here in just a little bit, but a lot of people have asked me, who is Ramsey and what is he all about? And if I could just bring up a picture maybe to give them a little bit of a taste of what we're in for. Ramsey, welcome, my friend. First of all, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. It's a beautiful day, so I can't complain.
Love it. So tell me about this picture because you are a top 5 natural Olympian champion and also a 2019 AAU champ, a world champion in your short class. So when did this picture take place?
This one was taken at the Natural Olympia a few years ago. Probably the best shape I ever got in. I was weighing about 175.
Wow.
And I'm really proud of that condition that I was in, and I'm constantly striving to get right back to that level.
So if you don't mind me asking, you competed in short class. How long have you been training?
Great question. Man, well, like maybe some people, I began at the age of about 15 to 16 as far as formalized weight training. Back in high school, as a sophomore. It was a great period and time for me to get going on weightlifting. I always knew weightlifting was in my blood. All my family members, relatives, very athletic people. So what happened, what spurred the formalized weight training was we were the smallest football team out in West Texas. And our coach was really smart. He went up to the board of the school and said, hey, listen, I got all these skinny little guys. And we're in a very competitive district. And I know football is king out here. So what we got to do is we got to beef up these kids. So he invested in a program called BFS, Bigger, Faster, Stronger, developed by Dr. Greg Shepard out in Utah. It was a good program. So that was the beginnings of me building a good foundation of weight training. That's probably about 15 to 16 years old.
So when you started at 15 or 16, you were already employing some of the techniques, not only to grow muscle, but you're really into sports performance and really optimum peak nutrition. So this was probably a little ahead of its time, and this evolutioned into something that you and I have gotten the chance to talk about, which is the birth of something that's great, which I can't wait to dig into. But what got you interested in sports? I know that you come from a family, background and history. What was it about weightlifting that really you fell in love with?
And I've heard Arnold say this, and I'm sure others have said it. I just love how it feels. When you start lifting that weight, your muscles start swelling and getting pumped up. You get the endorphins going. And so you love the muscle sensation, the stimulus that you get from it. That's the first thing that gravitated towards me. And then the mental aspect, and I don't say this enough, and I need to say it more. It really helps your self-esteem. It really makes you feel better, like you've accomplished something, and it builds your confidence. So those are the two cornerstones. And during this ice craziness that we had, that's the thing that I was just craving. It's like I need to exercise, I need to lift some weights, I can just feel normal again.
You're based in Dallas, Texas, correct?
Yeah. Yep. Right here in Dallas, Texas.
So you've got some heavy hitters. You've competed all over the country. When did you start competing? At what age? And tell us a little bit about your bodybuilding history.
Well, great. That's a great question. So I got through the BFS training program, and I started getting strong. I went into powerlifting, continued to build that base. And then I decided to compete. I think it was the summer of 84, or I was 18 years old, and it was the Lubbock Bodybuilding Classic, or I think it was called the South Plains Classic. It was an NPC show, and that was my first contest, and I was a nervous wreck. First year competing, all natural, trying to do the best I could. I still managed to be in the top 10. I placed 8th in my class.
Wow. So you were nervous. What do you remember? If you could remember the one thing about your first competition for somebody who's thinking about competing, what would your younger self tell that person now that you know what you've gone through after your first competition?
Don't dwell on it too much. Don't get too obsessed. And it didn't take it. Fast forward a few years, I learned that, and it's tough to do. It's easy to say maybe, but it's tough to do. But yeah, don't get too obsessed. Don't dwell on it too much because it drains you emotionally, mentally. Yeah.
I like that. So 1984 was your first competition. Walk us through what happened over the next 10 years to 1994. Did you step back on stage right away, or did you spend some time building?
Well, a lot happened. So a buddy of mine, we wanted out of West Texas. I mean, it's windy out there. It's rough country, man. You want to change by the time you're 18 years old. So he's like, hey, Ramsey, he's a good friend of mine named Bill. And he's like, I'm going to go to UT in San Antonio. I want you to go with me. I said, well, let's go down there for spring break and let's see how it goes. And I've heard of San Antonio. It's a grandiose city. So we went down there, and I don't admit this to too many people, but what convinced me to go with him down there was they had the most amazing bodybuilding gym. It was called the Powerhouse. This is 1984 on Fredericksburg Road and 410. And a guy named Frank owned it, who was really good friends with Boyer Cole. And if you know some of the old bodybuilders. So I'm thinking, okay, if I'm down here with my buddy, go to a good school, University of Texas school, and train here at the Powerhouse Gym. And man, what a treat that was. I said, Bill, I'm coming with you, man. Getting out of this windy area, going down there to San Antonio, it's beautiful. Go to school and bodybuild. So I started bodybuilding out of a Powerhouse Gym and competed within a year at my bodybuilding show called the Lackland. I was still a teenager. I was 19, and I won that title. It was an NPC show, Lackland Bodybuilding Classic or something like that. So then competed that, and then I went and competed, several times, and to about at the Texas Cup, got runner-up at the Texas Cup, I believe in '89. And then I took some time off in the early 90s. I took some time off. I was trying to build my career as a sports trainer, fitness trainer. So I was spending more time training people, getting certified, working on building a relationship with the NSCA certification people.
Very cool. So you're essentially getting a background and an education to get the experience and the wisdom of culminating what you created back in 2004. So as we go through the 90s to early 2000, let's just say 2003, what was your time period? What was your time spent doing when you were going through that decade? Because I think this is leading into something that was the birthing of your product. And I like to know the background about it because it's so interesting how you came to the conclusion that you were going to form what you formed.
Well, it was almost accidental. So yeah, you have to know some of the backstory, how it came to this point. So I'm in San Antonio. I'm getting my feet wet, being a competitive bodybuilder, building an education. I'm getting my degree in physical education at UTSA, and I start working at a natural food store called Sun Harvest Farms. Back then, they and Whole Foods were the only ones that were big in the sense of maybe having more than one store. And they were large. They're like a grocery store, but with this huge, elaborate supplementation department. So I spent 4 or 5 years working in the supplement industry, as well as competing in bodybuilding and getting my degree. So all this is going on. So I'm growing and learning. So then I developed these relationships with the EAS company, Experimental Applied Sciences. The owner was Ed Bird and Anthony Almada. So I'm up here in Dallas, and it's like 92 maybe, and I still maintain these relationships because I know how important it is to have proper sports nutrition or supplementation, especially as a natural bodybuilder. You better darn well take advantage of anything you can that's going to be helpful. So they're like, "Hey, Ramsey, we come across this new supplement, and we want you to test it out for us. You'll be the first one in that part of the country to be testing it because they're based out of California." I said, "What is it?" It's called Spazzoff, and it's creatine.
Yes.
I'm like, huh. Now, I was familiar with creatine. It's just that what we had on the shelves at that point was creatine phosphate. Okay, and the problem with creatine phosphate is it wouldn't absorb very well. And there's reputable companies selling creatine phosphate, but just didn't absorb very well, so it didn't have much effect. But it made sense. So their form was monohydrate form. So they're like, "Hey, this absorbs a lot better. You got to try it out for us." Okay. So I test the product. I'm in this gym, and it just so happens that a PhD candidate named Dr. Conrad Ernest was our consultant at this club. Now, this club was really professional. We had about 15 certified degree trainers out of this club, and it was $1 million operation we had going right here in Dallas, Texas. And we used him as a consultant for workshops and continued research and things like that. And Conrad was a really open-minded guy. And he's like, "Hey, Ramsey, what's going on? What are you doing, man? You're all of a sudden your ketones up, your strength's going up, and I know you're all natural. What are you taking? What's different?" I said, "Hey, I'm testing this Spazzoff for the EAS company." He's like, "Well, get me in touch with those guys." So fast forward, maybe 6 months to a year later, I'm in communication with Ed and Anthony, and the company's still really small. And I said, "Hey, you guys got to cough up some money. Conrad wants to do some double-blind studies on creatine." They're like, "Well, let me see if we can borrow some money. Let me see if we can come up with the money." So they did. They came up with the money, and I got involved as a co-author for the Spazzoff, the creatine monohydrate product, and we were published in '95. So during this time, I'm getting my certification as a strength conditioning specialist, which probably at that time, maybe still to this day, is probably the most reputable, scientifically based sports training certification in the country, if not the world. It's the CSCS, Certified Strength Conditioning Specialist. Well, I'm involved with the NSCA, and I'm so motivated that I'm creating these clinics now for the NSCA. They're the NSCA Texas State Clinics. And I noticed that Spazzoff was touring with the NSCA and also getting exposure to muscle and fitness, which, as you probably know, is one of our best resources back then. So I called up Coach Spazzoff, who was at UT, and said, "Hey, you got to come up here and be my keynote speaker, and you got to talk about these Bulgarian, Russian, Eastern European training programs, man. We got to know this stuff." And I'm all about education. I can very quickly put my ego on the shelf and learn, and that's what I did. So then, a couple of years later, Angel comes back up and starts speaking for us at our clinic, because I did this for several years, and he was always my keynote speaker. And he was brilliant, very charismatic, and extremely knowledgeable. So by then we had these studies already published. I said, "Angel, I can show you this. I feel really accomplished here. Right? I was a co-author on these creatine studies." And he's like, "That's okay. Yeah. We're familiar with creatine back in Eastern Europe. It's this thing used a mixture of amino acids. So they formulated creatine." I'm like, "Well, yeah, but we got this, and we're published. We're proud of it." He goes, "We can build something better." So I worked with him on creating this Synergen 3 product.
So I have to ask you, Dr. Spazzoff is really known, for his work. And, I've seen the SMU recommendations. I've seen the letters of recommendations from multiple world-renowned top sports performance specialists and doctors. And this was born. I love this because this kind of separates our head. If you look at it, right, we're like right in between, and we have Synergen 3 being created. Now, all this is on your website. So for those of you who are watching, you're going to see on the bottom that Centergen3.com, you'll get a chance to look into those testimonials and studies, because I was very impressed. I've done my homework on this company because we don't bring on any supplement company, first of all. What we do is we do our homework to make sure it fits not only our athletes, but also general health and wellness, to make sure that we know of the integrity, the character, and the ingredients that are in. And I have to say, without a doubt, Ramsey, I know that, you were at the Genesis last week, and we're getting a lot of chatter around this. And this is not something that is just shown up in the last few years. We're talking about a 15-year-old tried and true method with improvements that have evolved with what works and what works better. So I'm so impressed with that, first of all. Can you tell us a little bit about your team before we go directly into the product? I know that you have a team of athletes. I got a chance to meet some of them. You have been to our posing clinics. I know that a lot of GBO athletes are not only excited to meet you, but they're really excited that you're at our events. And I saw you test judging. And so you're really immersing yourself, really as one of your own, and you're wanting to compete soon. So tell us about how your team formed, because I know you have an amazing group of athletes.
Well, thank you. It just evolved over the last, let's say, probably between the last 5 to 10 years. This picture here were some of the top competitors in the INBA. The one in the middle is a Hall of Famer, Roland. To his right is James Spicer, and Reg Crosby's on the other side. What simply happened is they started using the product, and we're like, oh my God, this really works. That's what I always hear. Oh, this is really doing something. I'm like, yeah, I know, of course it is. So they're like, hey, well, we're willing to represent you. So I got those 3 amigos there, and I got some in South Texas. Andreas is a very talented bodybuilder. I'm sure I'll persuade him to compete in GBO. Maybe he and I together towards the end of the year. He's about 5'8", and right now a solid 220. And this kid's all natural. So I'm real conscious of liking that, have the natural athletes. So basically, they try the product, they love it, and they're like, hey, we want to be part of the team. Even Martin Drake was part of my team at the AAU Worlds. And I got a big kick out of that.
Nice.
So first they fall in love with the product, and then they want to be part of the team. So it's pretty simple. It's genuine.
I love it. I love it. Well, I have to ask you some frequently asked questions, first of all, because as I was going through, the research indicates that you're getting a lot of buzz about not only what's in it, but why it works so well. So I have to ask you a few questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And I love it. So as you go through, the first question that most people ask is, how does Synergen 3 work?
Yeah, and that's probably the most basic important question. Well, we took a whole different approach in the technology in this product. So it works by making insulin in your body work better. Okay, you have 3 basic anabolic hormones in your body that contribute to muscle growth and fat loss: testosterone, human growth hormone, and insulin. Okay, so while consulting with Dr. Spazzoff, he convinced me, had me learn that making insulin work better as an anabolic hormone is much safer and effective to use, and you don't disrupt the endocrine system. Trying to get human growth hormone to release is very, very complicated, and the testosterone systems is also very tricky. Lots of ingredients out there, lots of things out there that people are trying to use in the past. Sometimes work and sometimes doesn't. It's very tricky. So if you can influence insulin the right way, right off the bat, you've got something really good working for you there. So it's an insulin driver. When you work out, immediately afterwards, the first indication that insulin was very instrumental in recovery was European Journal of Applied Physiology, like back in the early 90s, published that consuming 50 grams of carbohydrates right after your workout, didn't matter where it came from. It could be a Coca-Cola or fruit juice or chips. It was going to help restore glycogen levels twice as fast because insulin sensitivity response was greater. So Synergen 3 mimics this enhanced insulin sensitivity all day long.
Love it. And that was what I was getting at, because this is a natural, we have a natural division in GBO and we have a non-tested division, and this works for natural athletes. And that's what's so amazing, is because it sounds like you've done your homework and research to get the precise blend and timing right for anabolic response. And a lot of times people don't understand the difference between, okay, how do you get the anabolic response right after training? Well, there's a lot of factors that involve in, your natural human growth hormone, and a lot of recovery, a lot of hydration, what you're putting into your body and when you're putting it in is really those things that really is kind of a, I want to say kind of that beautiful combination that works, that magical combo, so to speak. Yeah. So how long have you been finding that the results that that you originally started in 2004, when you originally released the product, how has that evolved? What has changed and what have you learned since you initially started and launched the product?
Well, I've learned a lot. I've learned it has many benefits, and through lots of field testing, we learned that it was originally packaged as tributol, and the problem with that is people thought it was a tribulus product and a testosterone booster, and then they looked at the ingredients and it's a small amount of tribulus, so it caused a lot of confusion. So that's one of the reasons I rebranded and repackaged the Synergen 3, because we have 10 nutrients work it in a synergistic manner to make insulin work better in the body naturally. But what was good in the pioneer days of the tributol days was we tested the SMU football team. I was out there. It just so happens that Chuck Fawcett was the head strength conditioning coach out there. He was worked as an assistant under Dr. Spazzoff at UT in Austin. So when I meet Chuck, we immediately made the connection with Spazzoff. And he says, "Hey, well, great, come on in, and we'd love to test your product with some of our athletes." So we tested the football team. Of course, that's always the most prestigious sport in D1 colleges. So what was really cool is we're looking for changes in size and strength. Well, we had probably 50 kids on the product. I spent a lot of money on this. And a lot of them, so I have a majority of the linemen on it. And these guys are averaging 300 pounds, right? These are linemen, interior linemen for the football team. Within 2 weeks, and I'm not exaggerating here, these kids come into the weight room to work out, and I'm scratching my head and going, did they lose some weight? Something's going on here. I looked at Chuck, I said, Chuck, look at these guys, something's going on. And it just so happens that I did test their body fat before. So this is kind of a pilot test study. And then 6 weeks later, I tested them again. Well, it just so happened these guys that were big, 300 pounds or so, dropped 6% body fat in 6 weeks.
Wow.
And I'm
That's
like,
amazing.
Yeah.
That is incredible. So tell me about why that was really the case, because, when we think about football players, we think about weight and we think about the things that are really important to size on an interior line. So when you said they dropped body fat, how did their strength react?
Oh, the strength went up. The strength still went up. That's what's so beautiful about when you can really activate your insulin to work well in your body. It's going to building the muscle, and it's reducing the body fat. We had,
I wanted to say hi to you, Ramsey, by the way. Say hi, Maddox. You're on the air. I see, bud. I see. I'm sorry, Ramsey.
okay.
Okay. Can you go? Yeah, I got it, bud.
What's that?
Okay, so go ahead. I'm sorry. Now,
Picture of what you're doing right now.
I love it. Isn't that cool? He's seeing us on live, so he doesn't realize that he's live on TV right now. I love it. Thank you, bud. Thank you. Well, when we go back, we talked about football and we also talk about other sports. So we've talked a lot about bodybuilding. What were some of the other findings that you found with athletes in general, and where did you find your product being the most beneficial? And can it be used for different array of sports, and why? Because I know different sports require different set of metrics when it comes to body fat, strength, quickness, fast twitch, slow twitch. What are you finding in that?
Well, that's a great question. And yeah, I love to work with athletes, like to test it and learn more. So we're doing pioneer work. We had some good results at SMU, reduction in body fat, increase of strength, and lean body mass. So I went on and tested the product with some sprinters. I worked with some world-class sprinters for a while. They were coming in and training there. This was a really special period over there at SMU. His name was J.J. Johnson. At his best, he was ranked top 10 in the world in the 100 meter, 100 and 200 meter, I believe. And he had some running buddies, and they were all working out up there. So they're like, hey, we want to test this stuff too. So it helped the sprinters. So it really works with any athlete. And basically the premise is because if you can have a product that we haven't elaborated on this just yet, but now we are, that can increase energy and increase the recovery, then now all of a sudden it works on just about any athlete. So not only is this product as an insulin driver, it has 5 key benefits. Let's go ahead and address that now. Increase of energy, improved recovery, increase of strength, if that's what your discipline of exercise is, increase of muscle mass, and reduction of body fat. So if you can have a product that can influence those five factors in your body, it's going to help. So these sprinters love the product, and in their training times in 200 meter, I saw their training times drop a second and a half in the 200 meters. So I'm out there observing these workouts. While I'm talking about track athlete, let me bring this one special case up. So I go to Chicago, Illinois to see some family, and I learned that my cousin, Lisa, is running at Aurora University, and she's 10 weeks away from nationals, and she's got this great body. My cousin was so blessed. She got the Rodriguez genes, thankfully. She's probably 5'9", great mesomorph physique, and her father's my first cousin, Salvador. I said, Sal, let's get Lisa on the product and prepare for nationals. He's like, sure. So we get her on the product. Mind you, this is her last year at university. This is her 4th year. She's not going to run anymore, but she wants to go out on top, doing her best. Well, we put her on the product, and she dropped half a second in her PR in the 200 meter. A half a second. And she lowered her body weight. And not that she was fat, but she lowered her body weight. And I have a picture on the website. Lisa Rodriguez, she's got her medals. She placed 3rd in the 100 meter and 2nd in the 200 meter at nationals. So I was really proud of her, and the product can do to help her for track and field. So these are the sprinters. So then we tested on the swimmers at SMU. We got swimmers getting ready for the Olympic trials. So we put them on the product, and we had several of them PR on the product, and they dropped about 1/10 to 2/10 in the 100 meter freestyle. So then I decided to test the product with some other athletes over the summer, and I had built a relationship with Dr. Peter Snell out at Southwest Medical, which happens to be close to my house here in Dallas, and because he helped us with the creatine studies. We had to use Dr. Peter Snell to do the blood lactates measures and changes for the creatine studies for the EAS company. Well, Peter guess what? Peter's an Olympic athlete. He competed in the 800 meters in 1960 Rome Olympics. So this guy still runs. So I'm testing some. He's doing the body fat test, hydrostatic underwater weighing for me, and he's like, hey, I want to test the product. So all of a sudden, now I'm testing the product on a aerobic athlete. So I said, sure, Peter, go ahead. And he gets on it, and he does what's called long distance orienteering running. So you can't get lost. You're out there running in the woods, keeping track of where you're at, running fast, and don't get lost. So this is what this guy was into. He doesn't run the 800 meter anymore because he's like in mid-60s. This guy's in his 60s, but he's in good shape. And he says, hey, listen, this product really helped me. I dropped some body fat. I ate better. And my endurance improved. Okay? So that sparked me to go test it on some other endurance athletes. So then I find this triathlete who's a very well-known sports trainer here in town named Greg, and he's in his mid-40s. So we go to the Triathlon Training Center here in Dallas and talk to his coach, who he owns the Play Tri Training Center, and designs his workout programs. And we tested the product for endurance on this triathlete. So, and I was there to observe, and it cost me a lot of money to get this tested. I spent over $1,000 getting all the battery of tests done before and afters. And at the end of the 8-week trial, the measure that I like to go by is power watt measure. Us in strength athletes, we like to go by, piece of strength in pounds, but they like to go by the power watt measure. And the guy says, "Hey, man, Greg went up almost 30% increase in power watt measure. There is no doubt this product had a huge contribution to that because I'm monitoring his workouts. So there's no doubt it helps the endurance or aerobic athlete."
Love that. Now, here's the question. The insulin spike, post-workout, how long is typically the insulin spike afterwards? And really, where's the benefit and the optimization on that?
Ooh, very good question. 30 minutes. 30 minutes. After you drop your last weight.
All day, it's going to be that 30-minute window.
Yeah. And the acute setting like that of a workout session, you got about 30 minutes to put something in your mouth and eat those 50 grams of carbs. Yeah, great question.
Like that. So let's talk about, because I know that the reason why I think that this is one of the best out there in its purest form is because you've done this by word of mouth. You've been ultra successful the way that you have been doing this, and people continue with it. It's not like they try it and they're like, yeah, it's okay. No, they actually stick with it. And I think that your word of mouth, the way that you have marketed it, now I know you're starting to go a little bit more online and you're able to scale it to where you keep the quality intact. Where do you find something like Synergen 3? Do you find it online, or where do you typically have it seen or visible?
Well, it's mostly online. Of course, the website, Synergen3.com. But we have a store here in Dallas that's now selling it, Total Nutrition Store. So some retailers are catching wind of it. I've got some others in the Austin area that are testing it and wanting to put it on their shelves too. So there's a little bit of growth in the retail stores, but it's mostly online.
Shipment wise, does it go anywhere in the country? Or are you mainly to Dallas, to Houston, to Austin?
You know what? I've had customers in Africa.
Wow.
I've had customers in Africa, and I get these obscure addresses, and I email them like, "Are you sure you're gonna get the product okay? Are you sure there's not gonna be some rhino or giraffe gonna intercede somehow?" And he was an engineer, and he says, "No, of course not. It'll get here just fine." I'm like, "Okay, just checking." And then I've seen it all over the world. I've had customers in England. Those are the most peculiar addresses, by the way, that they have
Yes.
in England. I think they have the chance to make up their own addresses. I think it would be kind of cool.
So we have European athletes, and we have London and England watching us. And so our senior director, I'll brag on him for a second, Chris Proctor. He runs the GBO Worldwide Insta. And it was funny because I sent him over some shirts. Now, he has his podcasts Friday afternoon, and we do ours Friday evening here in the US. And he goes, "Hey, mate, send me some shirts." I literally looked at the address and I'm like, you can't make this up. How? I don't even know how it's going to get there. And like UPS was like, I don't know if it's going to get there. We're not responsible if it doesn't, but it did get there. So I love that you're able to ship worldwide. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. But I kind of want to add to that. You brought up a great question. There's quite a loyalty to behind this product. Some good little trivia here. So I'm finishing up testing some athletes at SMU. And one of the most notable guys that uses the product is Thomas Morstead. He's the all-pro kicker for the New Orleans Saints. And this guy has ordered $500 worth of stuff at a time. He's been such a great guy and loves the product. And our connection.
Yeah, go ahead.
Our connection started at SMU. He was another great story. He was getting ready to go to the combine, the NFL combine in February. And he's like, "Hey, Ramsey, everyone's loving the product here, so hey, I want to try it." I'm like, "Thomas, you're a kicker, man. Do you think you really need it?" And he looked at me and he says, "You'd be surprised. Those scouts want to see how physically developed you are." I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting." Thomas is a big guy. He's like 6'3", 220 easily. I'm like, "Okay." He goes, No, I want every edge to help me. I've got about 6 weeks. I said, "Okay, sure, great." And he was so nice. I'm like, I was going to give him the product. He's, No, I'm going to pay you for it. I'm like, "Okay, great." So I did his body fat measures and went to the combine. And then fast forward, he comes back and goes, "Hey, man, I dropped some body fat." I said, "Dude, you had very little to lose." He goes, "Well, I still dropped some body fat and I looked a little bit better." I'm like, "Great." And then it gets picked up by the Saints. So I love that. And he's one of the best athlete stories that come out of SMU in the last probably 20, 25 years. Thomas Morstead.
Everybody knows his stats. He's an amazing kicker, an amazing athlete. And, when you have those kind of people who are saying, "Hey, don't give it to me, I'll buy it," you got something worth having. And, they're loyal clients and they're fun to be able to talk about. So I'm glad that you're able to talk about now. I want to talk about something fun with you.
Sure.
Number one, are you going to step on stage anytime in the future?
Man, I think about that every day. Listen, man, and I hope the GBO people out there are listening and your other listeners. I'm a very passionate guy. Okay, I'm Mexican, man, to the bone, and we are passionate, driven people. I am probably 10 pounds away from jumping on stage. And every morning, probably like a lot of bodybuilders do, I'll look in the mirror and I do that ab check, man. All those abs tighter. So yeah, man, I'm hoping to compete by fall. By fall.
I know you've competed in NPC, AAUs. What is it that you like about GBO? Because we loved having you, by the way. So that the involvement that you are having with us, we know that you're test judging. We also know that you might step on stage, maybe with GBO. What is it that really drew you to us?
Well, your culture. Your culture. I think every organization, I don't care if it's in business, politics, sports, what kind of culture are you creating within that organization, man? And I like the culture at GBO. You guys are cool. You guys are honest. You guys are nice. Are nice. You're not. You don't look down at anybody. So I like the good, friendly, camaraderie culture that GBO has shown me so far. And of course you have the natural side of bodybuilding. So those are the reasons. Those are the reasons. But the first and foremost is are the people nice? They have good intentions, and I so far see that they do. So absolutely, man. Yeah.
Well, we first of all thank you for your support, and I'm gonna try and butter you up for maybe this answer out of this question. Do you have a show picked out?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or are you gonna keep
Well,
it secret?
Well, no. I know I thought about that as well. There's a possibility of maybe the I think it's Scott Ramsey that's having the show down in the South Padre in September.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I might be doing that one, or the one in Fort Worth. The one in Fort Worth. I forget what it's called. I think
It's
it's Perfect.
Purvis Green Classic or the
Yeah.
Natty Nights, if that's in November. Or and Scott and Lisa just texted me and they got all excited when you just said that. So I think you might be legally bound to go into South Padre now.
Well, what would be really cool is me and Andreas, who's on the team, show up because he lives there in Spar, Texas. And I got to tell you, he's one of the most talented natural bodybuilders I've been around in a while. And and we have a lot of fun together. He's Hispanic. He's from South America originally. He's got a good story, and he's a pretty well recognized trainer down there in South Texas. And for him, it'd be really convenient to go to the island and flex up. So, he and I might just show up, but that's a possibility.
I love that. Now, let me ask you this. Is there a possibility that maybe more than 2 Synergen athletes might show up? Because the reason why I ask is I see that you're building an army. And by the way, I love that shirt. You got a little statement going on. Ooh-wee. That's nice. I didn't even see that before. So I was like lifting up and I saw that. Now I forgot my question. Look what you did, man. I'm like, dude, look at those biceps. I love that. Oh. We like to have fun at our show. The fact is it's not all business. Oh, you got the guns a-blazing. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Are you going to compete open? Are you going to compete masters? Are you going to compete both? Because you can do both.
Yeah. I'll do both. I would do both for sure. In all fairness, and I think it's real important to be honest with yourself. And in this case of bodybuilding, even though I'm in my 50s, I really believe I probably look the best I've ever looked if I can just get down to that lean body weight that I need to get to. As far as muscle mass, symmetry, over the maturity development, it hasn't gone away. Now, I may have a few nightmares now and then, where I lose my biceps, which happens a lot, but when I wake up, they're still there. So my development, I would venture to say the development has probably been the best it's ever been. So I just got to drop another 10 or 15 pounds and I'm ready to go. And by the way, I'm really big on the posing. So I will show a pretty innovative posing routine.
Amazing. Well, I've researched a little bit on that. Yeah, go ahead.
No. Let me just tease you with that point. Wow. My posing that I really try to come across with the good posing routine.
Yeah. Well, the posing is really what makes a bodybuilder. A lot of people think, oh, okay, you show up in good shape. If you have 2 people that next to each other are pretty equal, the posing is going to make the difference. So I can't wait to see your routine, number 1. Number 2 is I want to ask you, how does your family feel about you being in the bodybuilding industry? Because I know that for someone who might be stepping on stage soon, who's thinking about it, you have so many years under your belt, and it sounds like you've had a lot of support. Is there anything that you did to garner that support early on and to continue that support throughout your life?
Well, my parents were a little surprised at first. They're like, what are you talking about? Bodybuilding, what are you talking about? But they accepted it. And honestly, most of my physical talent comes from my dad. My dad and his brothers are amazing athletes. Real quickly here, my dad's 83rd birthday was last month, 2 months ago. He challenged me to an arm wrestling contest. 83 years old. And I couldn't pin him. Yeah, and I couldn't pin him down.
Oh my gosh. Is he a big guy?
Great question. No, he's 83 now, so he's probably still about 5'10", 220.
Wow.
but just so naturally strong. I mean, I can bench press at my best. I can bench press 400 pounds, man. No gear, no drugs, no nothing. I can bench press 400 pounds, and I can't arm wrestle and pin him down. So, you know, but they took. So I feel fortunate that I have these kind of genetics. But my family's the key to my longevity has been the family support and close friends. That's been the key, and I'm sure a lot of people would have the same answers. That's something that always comes full circle. Your closest friends and your family that support you what you do. And my parents have seen me help relatives, others with their health and health problems. And first and foremost, I'm a health advocate. You know, and an athlete second.
Well, this is going to prompt this question. You probably never even thought you would have been asked this.
Wow.
Would there be a possibility of seeing a father-son duo at 83 and a man in their 50s? How cool would that be?
Well, it's actually on Facebook, man. It's already been recorded. My little brother was getting off on it, so it's probably archived somewhere in Facebook.
Oh wow! Wow.
So
That'd be inspiring. We see 78, 80. We saw a 77-year-old bikini competitor, and it was amazing. She competed in open. She looked like she was 40, and nobody knew she was that. We're like, okay, this must be a typo. We don't have 60 pluses very often.
Yeah.
Incredible shape. So you can attribute your genetics to your father and strength, huh?
Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And I'm proud of that. And it extends to my other uncles and cousins, all very athletic and strong. Yeah, so proud of that. Yeah, but you know, you brought up this interesting point about someone competing in bodybuilding, and they're in their 70s or maybe in their early 80s, and they look good. And I scratch my head and I go, you know, all these scientists and these organizations, you want to know where the fountain of youth is? You don't want to know where longevity is? Go to a bodybuilding show. That's it, man. Go to a bodybuilding show. There's your trick to longevity. Pursue that.
You're right. So my last question and closing question is also a fun one. I would like to know, with your years of following the sport, what would you say your favorite show to watch was?
In bodybuilding or in sports or what?
In bodybuilding.
My favorite show to watch?
And I'll give you a caveat to that. You can also pick your favorite athlete of all time.
Well, even though I'm a natural athlete, bodybuilder athlete, you can't help but appreciate and aspire to the great development of the bodybuilders out there. Just watching Mohamed Makaway compete at the Olympia to me was probably the biggest joy. You know? To me, he just personified what a real artistic, beautifully designed body was in bodybuilding. So I'm a huge fan of this. And as I bring that up, so while Coach Spazzoff and I are talking about training, and he's like, I'll help you with your bodybuilding, with my training methods. And I'm like, okay, I'm thinking, I know, man, this guy has a double doctorate in sports training from Bulgaria. Okay, he's super, super smart. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm questioning for just a moment, I'm questioning it, well, does he really understand bodybuilding? Because he wants to try these strength training methods to bodybuilding. And he says, I want to help you with your bodybuilding. He said, that's what you are. You bodybuilder. I help you. And I'm like, well, okay, that's nice, Angel. He says, you know, Mohamed Makaway. I'm like, well, of course. He's one of my faves. He's like, that's a bodybuilder. I'm like, oh my God. Angel knows sports, man. He knows bodybuilding too. When he gives Mohamed Makaway as an example. So I'm like, darn right, give me that workout program. Let's see what you come up with.
Well, I have to admire your accent there. That was an amazing accent that you just did.
Did I? Okay, good. Let me tell you what, hanging around Coach Spazzoff was probably, listen, by far none, the highlight of my professional sports training career. And by the way, he passed away about, I think this February. Wow, this past February, I think it was the third or fourth year now he passed away.
2017.
Yeah, thank you. And I was so fortunate to be at his memorial, that service that they had in Austin, and there. And real quickly here. So you heard of Mark Henry, the strongman?
Yep.
Well, Mark Henry was there. That was one of his first super talented athletes when he got to this country. He had to train Mark Henry. Dr. Terry Todd says, "Here's Mark Henry. You got to train this guy. We got to make him an Olympian." So anyway, Mark was there. I was there, and a bunch of other notables. Well, Angel was such a moving and inspiring person that when Mark talked about Angel for him, he cried. He saw this big 375-pound giant just begin to weep when he talked about Angel, how special he was.
We know some of the same people. So Booker T, who used to have Mark Henry come down to his wrestling, and the reality of wrestling, the awards are tonight. And that's where we run our bodybuilding shows, is the Booker T Arena for the Storm Classic. So that's funny that you say that, because Mark has come around. Mark Henry has been in many conversations and been in the mix. So we didn't rehearse that. It's just something that we have a commonality in, and something that you are loosely tied to. So you have more of a connection than you think. And I love that. And, Ramsey, I know that we're going into a little bit of overtime here, but it was so worth it. And I just want to thank you. No, all good. And I want to talk a little bit about, in closing, really your Insta, because I know that your Instagram, a lot of people are going to, and they're like, okay, good. You just finally launched it. I know that you're new to that platform. And what I love is that's going to grow very quickly, and it's really interesting how you can be on Facebook, but not on Instagram, or be on Instagram and not on Facebook. And I love the fact that you have started that so you can serve more people. And I love your website. So yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm really proud of the fact that I'm now trying to get into more of an online presence. We've been doing so much groundwork with this product, lots of efficacy behind it. So now we're getting it out there on Instagram and Facebook both.
Love it. Yeah. What do you find easier? Do you find Facebook or Instagram easier for people to contact you?
Both have been good. They're both well designed, so it's been fairly easy either way. Yeah, I like Facebook. To me, is a little easier because I get on my laptop and I seem to have more room and have more space. Just in how it functions. So if I had to give an edge to it, it'd probably be Facebook. But I'm available. I'm around.
And then the last question, which I keep saying, I just love the questions, man.
I love the answer.
So you're maybe going to be competing toward the end of the year. What other GBO shows are on the docket that you might be showing up to as possibly a guest, maybe a vendor? Do you have any of those planned right now, or is that to be continued?
Oh, that's to be continued. I will say that Todd Rogers told me that I passed my judging test. So I'd love to judge a GBO show and help out that way. And I've got some ideas that I want to share with GBO, man. I'm a team player. Hey, I'm here and I'm passionate about this. I love what I do. And I think I've got a couple of good ideas that I could share with GBO, and so when the time is right, maybe want to listen to those. And I just improving the presentation just a little bit more. It's great. It just makes it a little bit more cozy and different things.
Well, you've been with us to kick off the season. You were at our first natural show, and just to give a little bit of recap, the genesis was Michael Gayton's first show, went off. huge success. We had the Louisiana State Championships with Chris Cruz out in Sulphur, Louisiana. And coming up, we have the Margaritaville Fitness Classic up in Conroe, which is only about 3 hours. So you might see Ramsey pop in and maybe not, but I will tell you that he's a super fan of a GBO, and we're a super fan of Synergen 3 and also his team that he has built. This is something that I know you put a career putting into and pouring into, not only financially, but just with your knowledge and your expertise as crowdsourcing other experts in their field. And so I love the fact that you have, formed what you have formed, and now you're delivering to all athletes. And, whatever we can do to support you, we will do our best, Ramsey. And I just have to thank you. You got a raving fan already, and that's Dr. Gabor Farkas. So for those of you who don't know who Gabor is, you'll see his picture on there. This is why I love this platform, right? Because we could sit here and talk about all the cool things it does. Put your glasses on. He won his pro card in October at our show last year, and then he made his pro debut 1 year later, first in men's pro Beachbody. So he is going to be ordering, and he already got online. Sometimes I get these texts randomly that said, "Hey, by the way, I saw Ramsey on your show, and I tried it out, and yep, that was the real deal." I'm a super fan, so love it.
Great, nice to hear that. Appreciate that.
Well, we appreciate you, and like I said, whatever we can do to support you, we'll do our best. Ramsey, our special guest, founder and owner of Synergen 3. You can find him on Instagram. Give them a follow. Their site just got up as far as their Instagram page. Now, their website's been around for a while. I checked it out. Very easy to navigate. Love the testimonials. Love how you can order and the ease of it, and does ship nationwide and worldwide. So any other last-minute thoughts before we sign off?
No, Matt, I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on your show. It's been a blast. Honestly, better than anything I thought it would be. It's really good. And I knew it was going to be good, of course. So I thoroughly enjoyed it, man. And this is just the beginning. I think we're getting past this COVID era. Things are changing. And I know there's been some hard changes, whether it's in our personal lives or in society as a whole. But I'm really excited about the future in this year. And what we can be accomplished with this GBO and Synergen 3 and other things in our lives. So I'm ready. So this is just the beginning. We're gonna do good together.
I love it. And there is one last thing. Yeah, I know. I love saying that. I keep saying that. Do you know who Mike O'Hearn is?
Sure.
Tune in April 30th. His wife just confirmed that he is booked on the show. So you'll get a chance to hear from some of the biggest and the best. And hopefully you might even see him if you come to the Vegas show. If you feel like you need to take a trip to Vegas to Scott and Lisa's show, I don't know. He may or may not be there. I'm not speaking for anybody, but we're really looking forward to having him as a guest here. And we're going to see if we can talk him into it just in case. So cross your fingers. He's shooting a movie right now. I'm very excited that we got a chance to get you in on this platform, and hopefully we can serve you and have a little fun with some of the other future guests. And we would love to have you back again. Give me a thumbs up if you're okay on that.
I would love that. Yeah, I got plenty of other stories to tell.
I love your stories, my friend. That's why I invite you back. I don't invite everybody back because then essentially we'd have no new guests, but we'd love to have you back, Ramsey. Hey, have a great weekend. Take care. Tell the family hi, and we will look forward to seeing you soon.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers to you.